All right, Don Allen, if you could introduce yourself a little bit to our participants.
Been in alternative EBD settings for about 32 years right now. I just have a long history of working with students and also using physical restraint and seclusion, and quite frankly, from where I was at the beginning of my career and where I'm at now is radically different. I've had a huge swing in my philosophy, my beliefs, and so I'm super excited to let you know how that adjustment, how that swing has happened, that new information, and where it's taken me.
Great. So when does it become seclusion and or restraint for you?
Yeah, sure. Especially real easy for me to define, especially when I think back to the beginning of my career. Seclusion was we would put a student in a room or in an area, and we would prevent them from being with their peers or prevent them being physically interacting with their peers as far as a physical place, that we would seclude them from their peers. And physical restraint was just much more restrictive, and that's when we were physically restraining them and physically hands-on using nonviolent crisis intervention to physically control them.
How did it make you feel when you were doing this? That kind of runs into our next question of how seclusion restraint has affected you.
Yeah, I mean, I will say, just because my philosophy back when I first started was the physical restraint and seclusion were necessary parts of the job, and because that was my philosophy back then and what I was taught, I always thought seclusions and restraints were a lose-lose situation, but I also felt it was necessary and important at the time. So at the beginning of my career, even though I didn't like it, and it seemed like a necessary evil in my job, and therefore I was willing to do it, and just thought I was helping out in the long run, the student and the population and the environment in the classroom. So that was where I was. That has completely changed. I have a completely different understanding of how the brain works, and so now when I think back of all the restraints and physical restraints and seclusions that I was a part of, I'm devastated by it. I'm devastated by the harm I believe that caused. That's why I'm excited now that we do not use seclusion or restraint at the level or even close to the level that we used to. As a matter of fact, we do not use physical restraint at all, and we do not use seclusion, in that we have a safe spot for students if they choose to use it for their benefit, but we do not physically seclude or restrain anymore. And I have not I believe it's 6 years now.
Mm-hmm. So I hear you saying that you learned about the brain, right? And I think you previously mentioned that you believed that the student wasn't in control. They were so dysregulated in the moment. You felt you needed to do that for control. What has allowed you to move away from that and help that student regulate in the moment with your understanding of the brain?
Well, there's been several things. So in this short clip, I don't think there's any way I can go, take a deep dive into all of that. But just in the understanding of the brain, and I'm going to use the 3 specific parts of the brain, and that's the conscious brain, the unconscious brain, and the amygdala. Once I have much better understanding of those 3 parts of the brain and the uniqueness of myself and the uniqueness of the students and how to use healthy communication to the unconscious, I realize I'm throwing a lot out there, but that's kind of the foundation of how it has helped us as a system and me as an individual move from consistently being a part of physical restraint and seclusion to no longer using it as a strategy in any way, shape, or form. And so it's not only understanding how not to get into those situations, but the importance of how to work with a student when they are in a fight or flight situation or when they are ramped up, in order to not have it go to the level of a physical restraint and the damage it would cause if it did go to a physical restraint. And so just understanding how the brain works now has dramatically, radically paradigm shift how I teach and how I work with students and my philosophy about physical restraint and seclusion.
Great. Do you agree with the practices that are currently used when it comes to seclusion and restraint? Why or why not?
I can only speak to my classroom. I would be uncomfortable speaking to any other situation. So just to give a stat that I think helps put a picture on it, is 7 years ago in my classroom, I used 70 physical restraints. I got this information. I started to adjust how I teach. The following year, 14. And like I said, I think I have the numbers right here. As far, I think it's been 5 or 6 years since I have not done a physical restraint, but I know it went 70, 14. That's been 0 since then. So I have at least 5 or 6 years of 0 physical restraints, and it's 100% due to the understanding of the brain at a deeper level, the deeper why of the brain. And so me being able to adjust how I teach in my classroom, the environment I set up in my classroom, and just the incredible growth I'm getting from students based on that too. So not only we're not using physical restraints, not using seclusion, but I've gone from a program that is really difficult for students to work their way back into the mainstream to a program that we are efficient and effective at getting our students back into the mainstream. So it's just really exciting. So exciting that I'm actually at the end of my career. I turned 60 this July. I could retire. Too excited to be in the classroom, and I'm staying on. I'm staying on just because this information is so valuable, and I want to give this gift out.
Nice, thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
Yeah. Just how valuable this information is to the education system. And I don't just mean special ed, and I don't mean just EBD. I mean students in general. If we could step back and teach students how the brain works, I believe we could radically improve not only education, but our world.